Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IS Current Affair Analysis for 22nd January 2021. This video is going to be a special primer on the debate of internet data protection, how we have to ensure that privacy of the individuals is entrusted with the government or a third party organization, what is the meaning of surveillance state, why this debate of privacy is important, especially in the context of the recent WhatsApp policy. We'll be discussing about the Krish Gopalakrishnan committee report. We will be talking about the European Union law on data protection, the lessons that India can take, and we'll also be talking about the best strategy, as in the case of France, the national AI strategy using a third party as a um, repository for all the public data. So this will be a comprehensive coverage and will not be restricted to this article. This is going to be a bit lengthy. That is the reason we have chosen to stick to just one theme for this video. This article titled Privacy and Surveillance is taken from the Hindu. So this article is regarding the law we should have with respect to data protection as well as privacy. Let me give a brief context about the article. WhatsApp has recently updated its policy and made it mandatory for users in India to accept its terms and conditions, not just in India but various other parts of the world as well, except in the European Union. Why? It is because European Union has a general data protection regulation or GPDR, which is considered to be one of the best in the world. India does not have such data protection law. Now, why do we need a data protection law? What is the implication of this WhatsApp's policy? Let us try to understand. As per the latest update of the WhatsApp policy, WhatsApp will make it mandatory for the user to accept the fact that it will have every other possible data within the framework of WhatsApp and share it across the parent company, that is Facebook, Instagram, and various other avenues. Even there is a clause which says that sometimes even third party applications can use this data. So, what are the potential implications of this is not known, but the reason why FB wanted to use this data is for better ad targeting. Now, in the name of ad targeting, can we actually compromise our data and put it at a risk? We have seen that third party applications, especially in the context of democratic politics, there is this controversy of a company called Cambridge Analytica, which tried to use this third party data taken from Facebook and has tried to manipulate the election results. It has targeted news in such a way that it appeals to a certain section of the users based on their preferences, likes, dislikes, etc. So this is a very dangerous manipulative game and it is not a healthy trend in the case of democratic politics. Similarly, when we are talking about radicalization, this ad targeting campaigns can also be used to radicalize youth in events of extremism. There can be spread of hatred. There can be hate speech if it is not properly regulated. Though Facebook claims that it will ensure proper regulation of these ads, so far the case has proved that, especially in the case of Cambridge Analytica, Facebook has failed to do so. Secondly, it is a moral imperative. We have a right to privacy. So in this context, there is a need for a strong regulation, and in order to address this, the government has come up with a committee called the Krish Gopalakrishnan committee. But before we get into the details of this Krish Gopalakrishnan committee, the point of reference we are taking here is the model law created by the European Union, that is the General Data Protection Regulation. Let us understand that first before coming back to this. So, this GPDR or the General Data Protection Regulation was passed by the European Union in 2018. So, what it essentially does is it redefines the understanding of individuals' relationship with their personal data. So, it relates to an identifiable living individual and includes names, email IDs, ID card numbers, physical and IP addresses. Say, for example, a person X has used his data like email, etc., on social media platforms and other various other platforms. So, there is a clause which denies the gatherer of this data to use this data for any other purpose. It requires the consent of this person X to use this data. So, this law therefore grants the citizen substantial rights in his interaction. So, who are the stakeholders involved in this interaction? Let us understand. The first set of stakeholders that we have is data controllers. Who are these data controllers? Those who determine why and how data is collected, such as a government or a private news website. So, those who collect data, it is as simple as that. Then we have data processors. So, the real game is here. There are a lot of companies which solely do this data processing work. Big data analytics, as we know today, or data science, is based on this fact that we can leverage data through intense processing and creating algorithms that are in tune with the requirements of the client. So imagine a Indian company working with a firm that is based in European Union. Now it is subject to the laws of European Union as well, because Indian company will have to take the consent of the user X to use that data. Let us understand the significance of this law. Firstly, under the GPDR, a data controller will have a clear and distinguishable terms laid down to inform the user of his rights. Then there is also a clause which says that the data collector should say who will be using this data and how it will be used. It should be clearly laid down. There should be no ambiguity at all. Secondly, the user will have the right to ask the data collector to delete his data from his database. So, this is another provision. Third thing is there is reporting obligation and enforcements under GPDR. Like, say, for example, there is a data breach. This data breach should be reported within 72 hours. And if the company fails to do that, there will be a fine which is up to 4% of the global turnover or maximum of 20 million euro. Now, a company would not want to have negligence or any complacency in reporting such event because the stakes are very high. Why would a company risk of being negligent when the stakes are so high? Now, there is also an implication for Indian companies because a lot of Indian companies have EU clients. So, the implications is global in nature and not just for India. But we have to understand that EU is the largest trading partner with bilateral trade in services that run up to 2.2 lakh crores as of 2018 itself. It can be much higher right now. Therefore, it will have a significant impact on Indian IT firms. So this is the framework of the model law that European Union has created. Now let us understand and go back to the Indian scenario. What is the committee on this data protection framework saying? What are the loopholes? Let us understand. When we are talking about the European Union law, we have to emphasize on one point which we did not discuss elaborately. There is something called non-personal data, that is data which does not help us in zeroing out the details of that person. So we are talking about massive numbers together as a group or a cluster. For example, the number of people traveling in an area at a particular point of time. So if you are looking through a satellite and tracking the number of individuals together as a cluster, what is the trend it exhibits? That is the non-personal data. Just to quote an example, say for example, if you are taking data from Uber about the number of cabs that are in that area and the number of drivers available in that area. Such clustered information is called non-personal data, and it will not give out information about the particular identity of an individual. So this kind of non-personal data is considered very important for a competitive economy going down the line. This is recognized even in the case of EU, because if we have to make public policies, if we have to deliver services that are available only with the private sector and make it accessible for the government sector to leverage the technology of the private to deliver services to the people, you need to ensure that there is a free flow of non-personal data. Say for example, if you have to solve the traffic problem in a city like Bangalore or Hyderabad, which is known for its traffic congestion, taking data from Uber at a particular point of time will definitely help us. So this data is non-personal data. So the Krish Gopalakrishnan committee, this person Krish Gopalakrishnan happens to be the co-founder of Infosys. So under him there was a committee which came up with a set of recommendations for national legislation and a creation of a separate data protection authority in our country to take care of this non-personal data. So this committee recommended mandatory sharing of non-personal data as it may be useful for Indian businessmen to develop new and innovative services in the interest of the citizens of this country. But the problem here is it heavily favors the private tech giants, because if we have to take a look at the non-personal data, it is further divided into sensitive personal non-personal data, public non-personal data, and thirdly community non-personal data. Public non-personal data means say for example census data collected by municipal corporations on tax collections, etc. When we're talking about community non-personal data, it is about anything that gives data identifiers about a set of people who have something in common. Say people from a location X, say all the people from Hyderabad, Bangalore or Delhi, etc. If we have their data, that is one identifier. Say a people of a particular religion from a particular geography, people who are doing a similar kind of a job in a geography, any common social interest. So for example, Ola and Uber will have trends of the kind of customers or the clients they have. Say certain geography which has a lot of office spaces will be using this app facility at a particular point in a day, in the evenings or in the mornings. So this kind of trend will be given by community non-personal data. And then the sensitive thing is the personal non-private data. When we are shopping on Amazon, we are shopping on any e-commerce website, there will be people who have similar interests like ours. So if we are taking away the identity of that person, say if I have searched for a pen, there might be other people who might have searched for a pen in my geography. So if we take out the name of that person and club them together, for that entire cluster Amazon comes up with a similar set of ads. So this is sensitive non-personal data. If we take a look at the TRIPS, that is trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, it is Amazon's creativity of the algorithm to generate this data set which is non-personal in nature. It is using its intellectual capability to generate this data set and combine them together with an algorithm. So India extended copyright protection to these computer databases in its law in 1999. So this is a big challenge. When Amazon is using its own resources, using its creativity to gather data, why should we demand that data be made public? What is the incentive for Amazon? This is the question that Amazon is putting forward. So there is no clarity over the grievance redressal mechanism if something goes wrong with the way Amazon is dealing. So there are a lot of issues like this. We have to, on the one hand, respect privacy. That is, we don't want to create a surveillance state. At the same time, we don't want to curb businesses. But if you allow giants like Facebook to go and have a free hand, policies like WhatsApp will become more and more common. This is not a healthy trend, and there is a need to balance between both the ends. So, from this perspective, this editorial has been covered comprehensively. So, what is the way forward we can discuss? There are certain countries, say for example, like France. France has a national strategy on artificial intelligence policy. So, this artificial intelligence policy encourages the private businesses to share and pool their data with the state, which is acting as a trusted third party. Say this is a business X, this is government of France. So they will have a common platform, say Y, which will act as a repository for all this data, and the government will access data from this particular data pool. So there might be companies, many companies A, B, C, etc., which work with X and pool the data with Y. France will use this. So this will ensure that there is a neutral body, and an institutional mechanism which will protect the integrity and privacy of the individuals and all the stakeholders. So France policy even empowers public authorities to impose openness on certain database of its social benefits. So in this way, we can adopt the best practices in our economy. That is what this article is trying to say.